Talk to me a little bit about that organic versus paid argument. Obviously, this is a discussion we have a lot, and I think there are a lot of brands that think that the only way they can win is if they're out paying influencers. But I think you guys are, you're bucking that trend. Talk to me about why did you guys decide that was the path, and then how? Yeah, just talk to me about it a little bit.
Well, we decided that was the path through either naivete, ignorance, or hubris, or a combination of those three things. And when I say this next thing, it's going to borderline on hubris, and I don't mean it to sound that way. But there are certain brands that influencers don't want to be associated with, or really don't care to be associated with. And we were fortunate at Milk that we had this patina around us from Milk Studios, the kind of people that were around it. And if you don't know what Milk Studios is, look it up. It's a really hot, content creation place. And, that allowed us to do that. And I think it's really hard to wade into the pool and pay these people, but not pay these people, because people talk. And so you kind of have to be one or the other. And we are fortunate that to date, people seem to be interested in the brand at large, what we do, and what the values, because we do stand for values. We went out, and this is not a brand that's just about making money. We've been very big on LGBTQ issues. We've never sexualized any of the models. We've done things that have been, we had a transgendered person on in our first gondola before Caitlyn Jenner. And when Caitlyn Jenner came, we looked like geniuses. And I'll tell you, when they put this person on, there wasn't a debate it was like, oh, that person has brown hair, looks good, let's put him on. It wasn't that like, oh, we need to have that person, So it was a really organic set of values that I think resonated with people. And, so I think we feel lucky that we're in that situation. But I do prescribe to the EMV piece is a business, right? There is the creative side to it. And Tim and Max and Abby and the team, are very good about sort of pivoting. We call the influencers, content partners, creative partners. And, I think you were the one who told me this, that this is a numbers game. It's a relationship game, that the more bodies you throw, and the bodies, almost like salespeople, have quotas for these 1,000 influencers or these 500 influencers should generate 6 million, and your 500 should generate 7 million, right? And that's how it's making people accountable. And it just, it's a numbers game, and that doesn't mean you can just call these people up. You have to have a good brand, a good strategy, a good way of approaching them, and I think the biggest thing is, it's like big actors. You don't go up to a big actor and say, hey, I'm going to pay you this money and you should take the job. They don't care. Everybody's offering them $20 million. You have to know how to romance them into doing it. And if you're the last person that shows up, they're really not interested in you. And, you said early on to our team, that we need to build these relationships and build them up over time. And I think I'm glad that you said that early on, that we focused on sort of mid-level and, and smaller people that ended up growing. And also, creating micro initiatives around people around Milk, baby influencers, makeup artists that didn't amount to a lot. We don't have any one big person, but the aggregate of 500, 600 people gives us 3 million here and 5 million there. And, so it just really focusing and being deliberate that you have a path to get to those numbers, right? Just hope is not a business plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think, implementing measurement is obviously really critical. And then I think the mistake that we see really commonly at brands, you guys scaled it up, but one of the big things we see is we'll see brands that have 15,000 influencers that talk about them in a given year. And they've got a team of 2 or 3 people. And it's like, there's no way that 2 people can manage 15,000 relationships. It's just not possible. And on top of that, every time one of those people talks about that brand, right, and never hears from that brand, but then they talk about Milk, and somebody from Milk personally reaches out, introduces themselves, thanks them for talking about the brand, asks them if there's anything else they'd like to try, right? That's where it's going. That's why you're winning. So it's really cool to hear it play out. I'm glad my advice from 4 or 5 years ago was mostly accurate.
as much as I hate to say it, it was. Okay, it was really important to what we did. You were a great mentor in this area. But the thing you're saying is really true. It's like I look at social and influencers as kind of like a friend. And that friend that every time you see them is saying, "Hey Connor, can I borrow $5? Hey Connor, can you drive me here? Hey Connor, can you do that?" And if your social's basically saying bye 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 bye, it's not fun, right? And in the same way, if you're going to an influencer's, will you post and like, well, what are you doing for the influencer? And so before COVID, we would do these workshops where we would help people learn how to shoot content. We'd help people, Diane would come out and talk about how you start your own brand, product development. Like, it's a two-way street, and it really is. And you said this, I remember the first time you spoke to the team, it's about having a real deep relationship where you're not this carpetbagger that shows up and, no brand is cool enough to stand out amongst other brands that, oh, I'm going to promote you because it's such a great brand. No, it's a relationship.
Yeah.
And you got to have those great relationships.